Okay, so I'm quickly going to run through because when I had you guys on Friday, I was at the funeral. So I just want to say what I wanted to, or would have said during that period. Oh, thank you. It's fine. I'm going to get. Right, so the first one, this chapter 3 was on common fractions. So if I were to give you 22 over 7, that is called an improper fraction because the numerator is bigger than the denominator. Okay? Then the next one is if I were to give you 3 and 1 over 7, we call that a mixed number. Now a mixed number consists of a whole number and a fraction. Okay? Now, I can ask you to write a mixed number in as an improper fraction or the other way around. Now, how do we do that? How do I change from this mixed number to an improper fraction? I'm going to say 3 times the 7, which gives me 21, and then I add the 1 at the top. So that gives me 22 over, and can you see the denominator still stays 7? Okay, but this is all just revision of grade 8 actually, no? I can also ask you to write an improper fraction as a mixed number, meaning write this as a mixed number. Now what we do then is, we look at what the denominator is and see how many times that could go into the numerator. So if I would count in multiples of 7, 7, 14, 21, 28. 28 is too big. So 21 is still within that number that I've got as my numerator. So that's how I knew it went in 3 times. And if I took 21 of those 22, it meant that 1 was left. And you will see denominator still stays over 7. Okay. Any questions there? Okay. Right. Then let's talk about decimal numbers. So I'm giving you the green, so 4 over 5. And I want you to write that as a decimal. Now, when we have decimals, okay, first things first, this 4 is smaller than the denominator, the 5, right? So it's not yet a full whole number. So that's how I knew it would be 0, comma, something. I don't know what yet. Now, after this comma, we actually have, in the first place, we have our tens. Then the second decimal is our hundreds. And the third decimal is our thousands. Right? Okay, so we're going to use that principle. Because what you guys are going to do is you're going to put 4 over 5 into your calculator and say equal SD. And it automatically gives you 0,8. Right? But if I were to ask you to do it without a calculator, then you've got to show me how did you get to 0,8. Yeah. Yeah. So our main goal is to get this denominator to either be a 10 or 100 or 1,000. Okay. So to get that, the closest one would be to make that 5 a 10. And how would I do that? I'm going to multiply with 2. And when I multiply with 2 at the bottom, I also have to multiply with 2 at the top. So that then gives me 8 over 10. Nice. Okay, now again, because this 8 is smaller than the 10, it means it's not yet a full number. So that's how I know it would be 0, comma something. And because my denominator was 10, I know I'm only allowed to fill up that first decimal. So 0,8. You guys fine with that? Any questions? Okay, I'm sorry you guys, I am only going to work on the right hand side because my screen cracked. So I've only got half a laptop. Okay. I've got no clue what happened. I worked on it on Saturday and it was fine. And then on this morning, the only thing I can think of is I didn't put it in my laptop bag again. It was lying in my boot open. So it might be that I maybe went around a corner, that it shifted and bumped, but it was closed. So ek weet nie, I don't know. When I opened it, you see the movies a kraak and yeah, so the school is not going to be happy. I don't know. And I'm also a bit screwed because I can't work like I used to. It doesn't work. The touchscreen doesn't work on that side. So I can't do anything. If I want to do anything there, I've got to use the mouse too. Okay, can I skip? Right, next one. 1 over 125. Same principles. But now, because my denominator is 125, I can't change that to a 10. I can't even change it to 100. So I've got to change it to 1,000. And 125 times what would give me 1,000? Times 8. Which means that I've got to multiply with 8, both at the top and at the bottom. And that's going to give me 8 over 1,000. Now, because this is 1,000, I have to fill up 3 spaces, not just the tens and the hundreds, but also the thousands. And when you fill it up, remember, I've got to fill it up from the back. Okay, the 8, I can't have 8 here, because then that's the same as 800 over 1,000. No. So you've got to fill it up from the back. Yeah.
How many times is that
Times 8. Okay, yeah.
So I'm always tries to get it on a 10 or
100 or 1,000, yes. Okay. Any other questions here? Okay. Now, when we want to change a fraction into percentage form, if I say the word percentage, we always see percentage in terms of something over 100. Okay, so it's always in terms of 100. No. Okay, so meaning when we've got to write a decimal as a percentage, we always want our denominator to be 100. So 4 over 5. Yes, that 5, I could have made it 10, but because we're working with percentage, I have to make it 100. So now I'm going to say times 20 to get that 100, and I also multiply with 20 at the top to get the 80. Yeah.
What does that IT
In terms of, sorry. Sorry. Ek was lui geskryf en my plek is so min. Okay, so do you guys all understand how I got to the 80 over 100? Okay, because it's percentage, I know that this 5 I'm supposed to change to be 100. Right? So because of that, I knew I was going to multiply with 20. But I've got to do it at the top and at the bottom. So 5 times 20 gave me the 100, and 4 times 20 gave me the 80. Okay, so which means that 4 over 5 will be 80%. Any questions? Okay, can I skip? Hands up, you're still copying? Huh? Right, next one. 1 over 125. I want you to write that as percentage, but We know our denominator must be 100. But what do we have here? It's more than 100. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to change that to 1,000. So 8 over 1,000. Now to go from 1,000 to 100 is much easier, no? So then I'm going to divide by 10, both at the top and at the bottom. So 8 divided by 10 will give me 0,8, and 1,000 divided by 10 will give me 100. So if I ask you to write that in percentage form, it would be 0,8%. Remember, it is possible to get 0,8%. Okay? It's just less than 1%. Okay, can I skip? No one's still copying? Okay. Done. Okay. Right, then write the following in decimal form. You guys are now going to try. Write that one in decimal form. When I say decimal form, you want your denominator to be either a 10 or 100 or 1,000. No? Quickly do that. You guys done? Right, so I multiplied with 125, both at the top and the bottom, so that I could have a denominator of 1,000. So 625 over 1,000. Now let's write that in decimal form. So I'm going to have 0,625. Who got that? Good. Now, write that as a percentage, please. Yes, yeah. 5 over 8, I want in percentage form, yeah. 62.5%. Good. Okay, so what I did is 625 over 1,000. I first wanted to change that denominator of 1,000 to 100. So what did I do? I divided by 10, which means that the 625 will become 62,5. And that means that my percentage would be 62,5%. Okay, can we do one more? Yes, ma'am. Can I skip? Right. Right. And then, oh no, sorry, I forgot to delete that. Write 11 over 4 as a decimal, please. And I gave you a clue there. I'm also going to ask you to write it in percentage form. So if you want, you can try that too. Right, you guys done? Okay, so I've multiplied with 25 both at the top and the bottom. So I got 275 over 100. Now, if I write that in decimal form, focus Kawiso. If I write that in decimal form, can you see that my numerator is bigger than my denominator? So I'm not going to have 0 comma something. I'm going to have 2,75. Okay, now I want you to write that as percentage. Now over here, we already had it in terms of 100. So that means that it would be 275%. Any questions? Okay, I think now we can mark the homework. No? Can I skip? Oh. Hands up, you're still copying? Right. Number 1A, write the following fractions and mixed numbers first as a decimal and then as a percentage. So the blue is the decimal and the yellow is the percentage. So I assume you guys cheated and used your calculator. No?
Yes, ma'am. But this is before we learn to
It's fine. It's just when we say without the use of a calculator, then you've got to use the method that we just did.
We didn't learn this in
Grade 7.
Yeah. Back in the day.
You had to. Actually, grade 6 as well.
I think it was grade 6 and grade 7 we started using calculators.
Yeah. Because I know my son's now grade 6, grade 5 already. Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny how when you get to high school, all like it's
Can I skip people? Any questions? Okay. There's B. Girlies, mark. Not just girls. Mark, please. Did you finish marking? Yeah. Any questions at B? Can I skip? Right, there's C. You will see at C, I first made it an improper fraction, and then I changed my denominator to a 10. Any questions at C? Hands up if you're still copying. Okay. Can I skip? There's D. Yeah. If it says without the use of a calculator, then yes, you've got to show me that step. If they don't say anything about calculator, then you have to. Come in. Can I skip people? Niemand. Right. There's 2A. 2A said simplify the following common fractions and write as mixed numbers if an improper fraction. Okay, then at B, I first had to do, or I still had to do that one, 76 over 1,000. And that will be 19 over 250. Okay, then number 3. Write the common fractions in question 2 as decimal numbers. Okay, so 3a minus 1 and 10 over 15. Now, 2/3 would be comma 6/6. Okay, so you're going to have minus 1 comma 6. Yeah, can we round it off to 2?
2 decimals.
Yeah. Oh, let's rather write it like this. Okay. And then B will be 0,076. Any questions there? Okay. Now we have got to add and subtract fractions. Can I skip? Yeah. Yeah. I'm carrying on, eh? Okay. Right. When we add or subtract fractions, the first thing we've got to do, take away your hand. Ek wou nou net nee, ek het hom eers gesien val. Pere anders vat ek hom, nee, for a month. The first thing that you've got to make sure is that we are not allowed to add or subtract if my denominators are not the same. So very important, make denominators the same. I'm not writing out the full word denominators. Make denominators the same, and they say find the lowest common denominator. Okay, so let's look at an example. I'm giving you 1 3/4 plus 1/6 minus 1/3. Now, first things first, I am not allowed to add and subtract because my denominators aren't the same. What are my denominators? I've got 4, 6, and 3. Okay? But before I'm going to change them, let's make this mixed number an improper fraction. So 1 times 4 gives me 4, plus the 3 gives me 7. Okay, now I want to change my denominators. So what would the lowest common denominator be? What's the lowest number? 12. Okay, so I want to change all my denominators to be 12. Okay, so the first one, 4. With how much did I have to multiply there to get 12? 3. So, and if I multiply with 3 at the bottom, I also have to multiply with 3 at the top. 7 times 3 gives me 21. Ooh, wow. Okay, the second term, my denominator was 6. With how much did I multiply to get it to 12? 2. So which means at the top I also have to multiply with 2, so 2/12. My last term, my denominator was 3. I had to multiply with 4. So do the same at the top. 4. Okay. Now, you could have written that as 1. I've got very little space here, but I'm going to try. You could have, some kids like skipping directly to this. 21 plus 2 minus 4. Okay. So either one of those two. Do you guys see what I did? Okay, now 21 plus 2 gives me 23. Minus 4 gives me 19 over 12. Now you could have left it as an improper fraction, or if you wanted, you could have written it as a mixed number, saying 1 and 7 over 12. Okay, same thing. Any questions so far? Right. Can I skip? Okay, now what happens when we multiply or divide fractions? Okay, it says there, when multiplying common fractions together, we simply multiply the denominators and the numerators together. Okay, so we could cancel out. Let's look at an example. If I gave you 4 over 5 times 3 over 8. Now you could have just multiplied the top ones with each other and just multiplied the bottom ones with each other and then see whether we can simplify. Or you could have cancelled out right from the start. What could you see? The 4 and the 8. No. Okay. So I'm going to take that away just now. 4 will go in once and 4 will go in twice. So your answer would have been 3 over 10 because the 5 times 2 gave you 10. No. Okay, so that's the short method. But I'm just going to show you guys. If I multiply the top, 4 times 3 gives me 12. At the bottom, 5 times 8 gives me 40. And 12 over 40 can also be simplified to 3 over 10. So either way. Okay. If you want to take the shortcut, you're more than welcome. Right. Number 2, let's say I gave you a quarter, right, divided by 3 over 5. Now there's just an added step in here. What did we have to do? Can I cancel out? I first had to swap. But what must I do before I swap? Yes, that must become multiplication, which means that these two swap around. Okay, so that will give you 5 over 12. Okay, right, I'm going to stop there.